The blood trail led upward through snow that shouldn't exist in July. Connor Briggs followed it anyway, his hiking boots crunching against ice that had formed overnight on Mount Rainier's western slope. 3 hours ago, the weather station reported clear skies. Now fog rolled thick enough to cut, and the temperature had dropped 40 degrees. He found her sprawled across the path where the trail bent sharply left. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered like oil on water, shifting between deep violet and midnight blue. 7 feet tall, maybe more, with limbs too long and joints that bent in ways that made his eyes hurt. Silver blood pooled beneath her shoulder where something had torn through armor that looked grown rather than forged. Her eyes snapped open. Gold. Burning gold. Connor stumbled backward, his hand instinctively reaching for the knife on his belt. Useless. Completely useless against whatever this was. She tried to rise and collapsed. Words spilled from her mouth in a language that sounded like crystal breaking underwater. Her hand moved to her side, fingers wrapping around a weapon that hummed with energy that made his teeth ache. Easy, Connor said, raising both hands. I'm not going to hurt you. Stupid thing to say to something that could probably tear him apart. She stared at him. Blood leaked from a gash across her ribs that exposed something that might have been bone, but glowed faintly. Her breathing came in sharp gasps. Her weapon arm trembled. Behind her, down the mountain, something roared. The sound hit like a physical force. Trees shook. Snow cascaded from branches. Connor's ears popped from the pressure. The woman's eyes widened. She tried to stand again, got one leg under her, failed. She snarled something that needed no translation. She was running from something worse. Connor made a decision that would either save his life or end it. He grabbed her arm. She was burning hot through her armor. Feverish, she yanked away, weapon rising, and he showed her his empty hands again. There's a cave, he said, pointing up the trail. 5 minutes, maybe less. She understood nothing. But when the roar came again, closer now, she looked at him differently. He pulled her arm across his shoulders. She was impossibly heavy. Her armor dug into his collarbone. Every step felt like dragging a refrigerator uphill. The cave entrance appeared through the fog exactly where he remembered it. 20 feet deep. Narrow opening. Invisible unless you knew where to look. They made it inside as the first creature crested the ridge. Connor saw it for only a heartbeat before he pulled the woman deeper into darkness. Something massive, something with too many legs, something that tracked by scent or heat, or something humans had no sense for. The woman's hand clamped over his mouth. Her strength was terrifying, even wounded. Her other hand still held that humming weapon. Outside, the creature screamed. The creature's shadow filled the cave entrance. Connor held perfectly still. The alien woman's hand remained pressed across his mouth, her palms searingly hot against his skin. Her breathing had gone silent, completely silent. He didn't understand how something that size could make no sound breathing. The creature outside made enough noise for both of them. It scraped against rock, sniffed. Connor heard wet breathing, the sound of something tasting the air. A limb reached into the cave mouth, segmented and armored, ending in something between a claw and a blade. It swept left, then right, missing Connor's boot by inches. The woman's weapon began to glow brighter. The creature's limb retracted, silence stretched. Then, footsteps, heavy and deliberate, moving away from the cave. Connor waited. The woman waited longer. Finally, she released his mouth and slumped against the cave wall. Her weapon dimmed but stayed in her hand. "What the hell was that?" Connor whispered. She responded in that crystalline language. Her free hand moved to her wounds. When she pulled her fingers away, they were covered in silver that glowed faintly in the darkness. Connor pulled out his phone. No signal. Of course no signal, but the flashlight worked. He turned it on. The woman flinched, weapon rising. "Light," Connor said, keeping his voice steady. "Just light." He aimed it at the cave floor, not at her. Slowly, she lowered the weapon. In the dim glow, he got his first real look at her injuries. Bad, really bad. The shoulder wound went deep. The gash across her ribs exposed muscle that pulsed with bioluminescence. Smaller cuts covered her arms and legs. Connor shrugged off his backpack and pulled out his first aid kit. He held up the gauze, the antiseptic, knowing they were probably useless. She watched him. Those gold eyes tracked every movement. When he took a step closer, she didn't raise the weapon. "I'm going to help," he said. "Or try to." He pointed at her wounds, then at the medical supplies. She looked at the small packet of antiseptic, then at the massive injuries across her body. Something that might have been amusement flickered across her face, but she nodded. Connor moved closer. Her armor was impossible to remove, grown into her skin in places. He worked around it, cleaning what he could reach. Her blood burned against his hands, not painfully, but with a heat that felt alive. The antiseptic evaporated on contact. She spoke again, softer this time. Her hand moved, not threatening, but gesturing. She pointed at herself, then made a motion toward the sky. "You're from up there," Connor said. Another gesture, a sweeping motion that encompassed the mountain, the forest, everything. "You're hunting them," Connor said. "Or they're hunting you." Her expression darkened. She touched her shoulder wound, then made a specific gesture with her fingers. 3 fingers raised. Then she pointed outside. 3 of them. Connor's stomach dropped. One had been terrifying enough. She tried to stand, made it halfway before her leg buckled. Connor caught her, straining under the weight. She gripped his shoulder, and he felt the raw strength in those fingers. Even wounded, she could crush bone without effort, but she steadied herself carefully, didn't hurt him. Her weapon hummed louder. She touched a symbol on its surface, and the entire thing transformed, segments folding and reshaping into something longer, bladed at both ends. She moved it through the air in a pattern that was clearly practiced, a warrior's movement. Then she looked at Connor and made a pushing motion. "Away. Leave." "Not happening," Connor said. She pushed harder, urgency in her movements. Outside, in the distance, another roar echoed across the mountain. Connor pulled his hiking knife, 6 inches of steel, pathetic compared to her weapon. Useless against those creatures, he held it anyway. The woman stared at him. For a long moment, neither moved. Then something shifted in her expression. Recognition, maybe. Respect, possibly. She reached to her belt and pulled free a small device, metallic, covered in symbols that glowed when she touched them. She pressed it into Connor's hand. It burned, not painfully, but with purpose. Symbols raced across its surface, changing, adapting. Then they settled into something Connor could read. English. "Defend position," the device said in a flat, mechanical voice. "Reinforcements coming. 16 hours." 16 hours. Connor looked at the cave entrance, at the fog beyond, at the woman who could barely stand. "We need to move," he said. "There's a ranger station 2 miles east. Radio. Real walls." She listened to the translation, shook her head, pointed at the device, at herself, at the sky. "They're tracking you," Connor said. She nodded. "Then they already know where you are. Moving won't change that. But a building gives us better odds than a cave." The woman considered this. Her weapon shifted in her grip. Outside, closer now, something heavy moved through the trees. She looked at Connor again, made her decision. "Lead," the translation device said in her voice. Connor grabbed his pack. The woman pushed away from the wall, weapon ready, moving with a limp that would slow them down. 2 miles, 16 hours. 3 creatures. They stepped out of the cave into fog that had grown thicker, colder. Connor turned east. Behind them, something screamed. They ran. The ranger station appeared through the fog like a ghost. Connor's lungs burned. The woman kept pace despite her injuries, moving with a grace that shouldn't be possible. Twice they'd heard the creatures closing in. Twice she'd stopped, weapon raised, and waited until the sounds passed to the south. She was leading them away, drawing them off deliberately. The station was small, built from logs and concrete, designed to withstand bears and bad weather. The door hung open. Inside, chairs were overturned, papers scattered across the floor. Something had already been here. Connor entered first, knife ready. The main room was empty. He checked the back office, the storage closet, the bathroom. Clear. The woman followed him inside and immediately moved to the windows. She studied the sight lines, the approaches, the weak points. Even injured, even in an alien environment, she thought tactically. Connor found the radio. He flipped the power switch. Static. He adjusted the frequency, trying the emergency channel. More static. Ranger Station 7 to base. Anyone copy? Nothing. He tried again. The woman watched him, weapon held loosely, conserving energy. The translation device on Connor's belt spoke. Communications jammed. They control orbital space. How many are up there? Connor asked. Fleet strength unknown. I was separated during atmospheric entry. My squad is scattered. A squad. Other aliens like her, somewhere on Earth. Connor tried to process that while checking the station's supplies. 2 hunting rifles in a locked cabinet. He broke the lock with a fire axe. Ammunition. Not much. Enough. Can you use this? He asked, folding up a rifle. She took it, examined it with clear disdain, handed it back. Her weapon hummed, and she touched another symbol. The blade configuration collapsed into something compact, then expanded into a long-range form that resembled a rifle but moved like a living thing. Much better than anything humans made. Connor kept the rifle anyway. He loaded it, checked the sight, and positioned himself near the eastern window. The woman claimed the western exposure. She knelt despite her injuries, weapon trained outward, absolutely still. What's your name? Connor asked. The device translated his question. She responded without looking at him. Designation translates poorly. Call sign is Kara. Connor, she glanced at him briefly, returned to watching the tree line. Why are they here? Connor asked. Those creatures. Hunters. My people have fought them for 3 centuries. They seed worlds with terror, feed on fear. Your planet was marked 6 months ago. 6 months. Connor's mind raced. Had there been signs, disappearances, strange sightings? Or had they been too subtle, too patient? Your governments don't know, Kara continued. The first wave is always silent. They study, learn, adapt. By the time your species realizes the threat, it's too late. But you're here. We intercepted their scout ships, followed them, engaged in your outer system. Most were destroyed. Some reached surface. How many? Kara was silent for a moment. Enough. Outside, the fog shifted. Connor saw movement between the trees, low, fast, gone before he could identify it. Kara's weapon tracked the motion. Contact, she said. Connor raised his rifle. His heart hammered. Through the scope, he saw nothing but gray and shadow. Then the shadow moved. It came low, using the terrain faster than anything that size should move. Connor caught glimpses. Segmented armor, too many legs, a head that was all angles and edges and teeth. He fired. The rifle cracked loud in the enclosed space. The bullet sparked off armor plating. The creature didn't slow. Kara's weapon made no sound. It simply punched a hole through reality. The air itself seemed to tear. The beam caught the creature's center mass and vaporized everything it touched. The thing screamed, kept coming, missing a third of its body mass, impossibly still alive. Kara fired again. This time the head vanished. The creature crashed through a tree and went still. One down, Connor said. Two remaining. They're coordinating. Of course they were. Connor moved to the northern window. The fog was lifting. Worse. Much worse. Fog provided concealment. Clear air meant they could be seen from anywhere. The second creature hit the station's north wall. The entire building shook. Logs cracked. Connor stumbled. The creature's limb punched through the wall 3 feet from his head. Segmented and bladed and sweeping, he fired point blank into the opening. Blood sprayed, black and thick. The limb retracted. Kara was already moving. She crossed the room in 2 strides and fired through the hole the creature had made. Her weapon carved through the north wall, through the creature beyond, through the trees behind it. Silence. Then the third one came through the roof. It dropped directly onto Kara. 1,000 pounds of armored fury. She rolled impossibly fast, but not fast enough. A bladed limb caught her already wounded shoulder and tore. Connor fired. Again. The bullets were annoying it at best. Kara's weapon had been knocked away. She had a blade in her other hand now, pulled from somewhere on her armor. She drove it upward into the creature's underside. It shrieked and reared back. Connor grabbed the fire axe. Stupid. Suicidal. He swung anyway. The axe bit into the joint, where the creature's front limb met its body. Shallow, but enough. The creature turned, and Connor saw its face up close. Compound eyes, mandibles, intelligence behind the hunger. It recognized him as prey. Kara hit it from behind. Her blade found the gap in its armor at the neck. She drove it deep, both hands on the grip, pushing with everything she had. The creature thrashed. Its limb caught Connor across the chest and sent him flying. He hit the wall. Ribs cracked. Couldn't breathe. Kara twisted the blade. The creature went limp. She pulled the weapon free and stood over Connor. Silver blood ran down her arm. Her shoulder was worse now, much worse. 16 hours, she said through the translator. Connor tried to respond, coughed blood instead. Kara knelt beside him. Her hand pressed against his chest, and heat flooded through him. Not burning. Healing. Alien biology. Doing something his body shouldn't survive. The pain receded. Not gone, but manageable. We need higher ground, Connor said. The peak. Old fire tower. Stone foundation. Better sight lines. Kara looked toward the ceiling, toward the sky beyond. Can you walk? Connor stood. Everything hurt. But he could move. Then we go higher, Kara said. The fire tower stood against the sky like a skeletal hand reaching upward. Connor climbed with broken ribs, screaming at every step. Kara moved beside him, her injured shoulder now barely functional. She'd fashioned a sling from her own armor plating, pieces that detached and reformed with a thought. Her weapon stayed in her good hand. The mountain grew steeper. Loose rocks slid beneath their boots. Twice Connor nearly fell. Twice Kara caught him with strength that was fading, but still far beyond human. They reached the tower as the sun broke through. Real sunlight, not the pale filtered light from earlier. It illuminated the valley below, the forest stretching endlessly, and the 3 craters where something had impacted during the night. Your squad? Connor asked. Kara studied the craters. Maybe. Or more hunters dropped from orbit. The tower's stone foundation was solid, built a century ago when they built things to last. The metal structure above was rusted, but stable. Connor tested the ladder. It held. Up or down? He asked. Kara examined the foundation. It had narrow windows designed for storage, defensible. Limited sight lines. Down, she decided. Better protection. They descended into the foundation's interior. Cool. Dark, windows facing all directions but small, designed to keep weather out rather than provide views. Kara immediately began working. She pulled devices from her armor, small modules that separated and expanded. She placed them at the entrance. At each window, they hummed to life, creating a shimmer in the air. Energy barriers, the translator said. We'll slow them, won't stop them. Connor used the time to reload his rifle. The handgun he'd found in the ranger station counted ammunition. Not enough. Never enough. His ribs throbbed. Kara's healing had stopped the worst of it, but every breath felt like glass in his lungs. How long have you been fighting them? Connor asked. Kara was checking her weapon, running diagnostics. Personally? 30 cycles? Your years translate to approximately 42 stars. She didn't look 42, but then Connor had no idea what aging meant for her species. We're losing, she continued, voice flat through the translator. They adapt faster than we can develop countermeasures. They reproduce exponentially. Every world they take gives them resources for the next assault. How many worlds have they taken? 17 confirmed. 12 more are contested. Yours would be their 30th target. The numbers were incomprehensible. Connor tried to imagine 17 civilizations wiped out. Failed. Why do you keep fighting? Kara looked at him directly. Those gold eyes held something ancient and tired. Because someone must. Because surrender means extinction for everyone, not just us. Because the alternative is unacceptable. Outside something howled, different from before. Ire pitched. More of them. Kara moved to the eastern window. Connor took the west. Through the narrow opening, he saw movement in the tree line. They came in a wave. Not 3, not 5, dozens. Different sizes, different configurations, some low and fast, some tall and armored, some that flew on membranous wings. They called reinforcements, Kara said. Her weapon hummed louder, charging for sustained fire. She braced it against the window frame. Conserve ammunition, she told Connor. Fire only when certain of a kill. The first wave hit the energy barriers. The air lit up with impacts. Creatures slammed into invisible walls and recoiled. The barriers held barely. Each impact weakened them, the shimmer growing more pronounced, more unstable. Kara fired. Her weapon carved through 3 creatures before they could retreat. Their bodies collapsed, vital organs vaporized. More came, always more. Connor picked his targets, aimed for joints, for eyes, for the gaps in armor plating. Every shot had to count. His rifle barked. A creature fell. Another took its place. The eastern barrier failed. Creatures poured through. Kara switched her weapon to rapid fire, a continuous beam that swept across the entrance. She cut them down methodically, without hesitation, without mercy. But her weapon was overheating. Connor could see it glowing, the mechanism struggling. How long until your people arrive? He shouted over the noise. 11 hours. 11 hours. Connor looked at the swarm outside, at Kara's failing weapon, at his own dwindling ammunition. They wouldn't last 11 minutes. A flying creature dropped through the tower opening above them. Connor shot it out of the air. It crashed beside him, still twitching. He fired again, point blank. It stopped moving. The western barrier collapsed. Connor switched windows, firing as fast as he could aim. The rifle clicked empty. He grabbed the handgun, kept firing. Kara's weapon stopped working entirely. She dropped it and pulled twin blades from her armor. When the first creature made it through the entrance, she met it with movements that were pure combat efficiency. No wasted motion, no hesitation. She carved through it and engaged the next. Connor was out of bullets. He grabbed the fire axe he'd carried from the station, planted himself beside the entrance. When a creature lunged through, he swung with everything he had. The axe bit deep, the creature shrieked. Connor yanked the weapon free and swung again. They fought back to back, human and alien, axe and blade, against odds that were mathematically impossible. Connor's arms burned. His broken ribs ground together with each movement. He was bleeding from a dozen cuts he didn't remember receiving. Kara was worse. Her shoulder wound had torn open completely. Silver blood ran freely. She was slowing, each movement costing more than the last. A creature got past her guard and slammed into Connor. He went down hard. The axe skittered away. Mandibles closed toward his throat. Kara's blade punched through the creature's skull from behind. She kicked it off Connor and pulled him up. They stood together in the center of the foundation, surrounded. Creatures circling, learning, waiting. Kara's translator spoke one word: sorry. Connor gripped the axe. Not your fault. You could have run. Where's the fun in that? She made a sound that might have been a laugh. Her blades came up in a defensive stance. The creatures charged. Then the sky opened up. Beams of light punched down from orbit. Precision strikes that vaporized entire sections of forest. The creatures screamed and scattered. More beams fell. The ground shook. A ship descended through the clouds, sleek, massive, covered in the same flowing armor as Kara wore. Her people had arrived early. Kara lowered her blades. Her legs gave out. Connor caught her, struggling under the weight. Your reinforcements, he said. Yes, thought you said 16 hours. I lied. Didn't want you to hope. The ship landed. A ramp extended. Figures emerged, tall and armored, weapons ready. They swept the area with military efficiency. One approached Kara. Spoke in that crystal language, she responded weakly. They lifted her carefully, began carrying her toward the ship. She looked back at Connor. You fought well, the translator said. For someone who didn't know what he was fighting. Learned fast. Come. Your world isn't safe yet. We have work to do. They offered him a hand toward the ship. Connor looked at the valley, at Earth, at home. Then at the stars beyond. He took the hand. The ship's interior was alive. Walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The floor adapted to Connor's stride, cushioning each step. The air tasted like ozone and something floral he couldn't identify. Warriors moved through corridors with purpose. They were all tall, all armored, but no two looked exactly alike. Different colors, different builds. Some had 4 arms. Others had crests that swept back from their heads like crowns. They all stopped to look at Connor. He followed the medics, carrying Kara into what had to be their medical bay. The room was circular, dominated by a platform that rose from the floor when they laid her on it. Devices descended from the ceiling, scanning, probing, administering treatments that glowed as they entered her bloodstream. Her armor peeled back, revealing the full extent of her injuries. Connor looked away. A hand touched his shoulder. He turned to find another warrior, broader than Kara, with deep red skin and scars that crossed his face in deliberate patterns. You are Connor, the translator on Connor's belt said, adapting to the new voice. Kara spoke of you during extraction. I am Vex, strike team leader. Is she going to be okay? Vex watched the medical team work. Her wounds are severe, but Kara has survived worse. She always does. How many of you made it down? 12 of my team reached surface. We've located 9. 3 signals went dark before we could extract them. Dead. 3 of Kara's squad dead on a planet they'd come to protect. Vex gestured for Connor to follow. They walked through corridors that curved upward, defying normal geometry. Other humans were here now. Connor saw them inside rooms, being examined, treated, questioned. Hikers, rangers, people who'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place. They reached the command center. The room opened up impossibly wide, larger than the ship's exterior should allow. Holographic displays filled the air, showing Earth from orbit, tracking thousands of signals across the surface. Red dots, so many red dots. Hunter deployment sites, Vex explained. They've scattered across your planet. 47 confirmed nests. Hundreds of individual signatures. They're breeding. Connor stared at the display. Red dots covered North America, Europe, Asia. Concentrations in remote areas, mountains, forests, deserts. Places where people wouldn't look until it was too late. How long before they spread to populated areas? They already have. Small attacks, isolated incidents. Isolated incidents, your media reporting them as animal attacks, gas leaks, mass hysteria. Within a week, they'll be too numerous to hide. A week. Connor watched the red dots pulse. Each one represented dozens, maybe hundreds of those creatures. What can you do? Vex touched a control. The display shifted, showing blue dots appearing across the globe. Ships. Strike teams, coordinated assault patterns. We have 43 ships in system, 18,000 warriors. We'll hit every nest simultaneously. Orbital bombardment on the largest sites. Ground teams for urban areas. Precision strikes to minimize civilian casualties. You're going to war on our planet. We're already at war. Has been for 6 months. Your people just didn't know it. Connor thought about the news. Strange disappearances. The hikers who never came back from Denali. The research station in Antarctica that went silent. The fishing village in Norway found empty. Not accidents, not mysteries. The opening moves of an invasion. What do you need from us? Connor asked. Vex looked at him with something like respect. Your military will panic when they see us. They'll shoot at everything. We need coordination. Someone who can explain. Someone they'll believe. They won't believe me. I'm nobody. A wilderness guide. You fought beside Kara. Survived engagement with hunters using primitive weapons. Showed tactical sense and courage under impossible odds. Vex pulled up a recording. Connor watched himself fight in the fire tower. He looked insane, desperate, human. Your people need to see one of their own standing with us, Vex continued. Need to know we're not invaders. We're allies arriving late to a fight you didn't know you were in. Connor wanted to refuse, wanted to get off this ship, go home, pretend none of this happened. But the red dots on the display kept pulsing. What about Kara? She'll recover. And she'll fight. She always does. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Weak but steady. I'm fighting now. Kara stood there, supported by 2 medics. Her armor had been repaired. Her wounds sealed with metallic mesh that glowed softly. She shouldn't be standing, shouldn't be conscious. But she was. Kara, you need rest, Vex said. I need to finish what I started. She looked at Connor. We both do. The ship shuddered. Red alerts flashed across the displays. Vex touched a control, and a new image appeared. A hunter ship, massive, emerging from behind the moon. Battlecruiser class, Vex said. They're escalating. The hunter ship fired. Beams lanced down toward Earth, toward cities, toward millions of people who had no idea what was coming. The Allied fleet moved to intercept. Ships broke orbit, weapons charging. The space above Earth, lit up with weapons fire, Connor watched his planet become a battlefield. "Get me a comm line to the Pentagon," he said, "to whoever handles alien contact, to someone with authority." Vex worked the controls. "Done. You have 2 minutes before they scramble fighters." Connor stepped up to the communication station. A face appeared on screen. A general, stars on his collar, disbelief in his eyes. "My name is Connor Briggs," Connor said. "I'm on an alien ship above Earth, and I'm about to tell you something you won't believe. But you need to listen anyway, because if you don't, we're all dead by morning." The general opened his mouth to speak. "There are monsters on our planet," Connor continued. "Real ones. And the aliens you're about to shoot at are the only reason those monsters haven't already won. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stand down. You're going to coordinate with these people, and you're going to help us save the world." Silence on the line. Then the general said 4 words. "Show me the proof." Vex transferred the data. Every nest location, every engagement, every piece of evidence. The general's face went pale. "How long do we have?" "Hours," Connor said. "Maybe less." "Then we'd better move fast." The general turned away, already shouting orders. Kara stepped beside Connor. Her weapon materialized in her hand, fully repaired. "Ready?" she asked. Connor looked at the displays, at the war beginning around his planet, at the choice between hiding and fighting. He picked up a weapon offered by a nearby warrior. Alien tech, perfectly balanced, humming with power. "Let's go hunting." The drop pod screamed through atmosphere like a meteor. Connor gripped the restraints as G-forces tried to crush him flat. Beside him, Kara sat motionless, her warriors calm absolute. Across from them, Vex checked weapon readouts. 3 more warriors filled the pod. Their names learned in the 5-minute briefing before launch: Maya, Thorn, Kaz. All veterans, all scared. Though they hit it better than Connor. The pod hit ground in Nevada desert. Target, the largest hunter nest detected, buried beneath an abandoned mining facility. Intel suggested a breeding queen. Kill her. Cripple their expansion. Simple. Suicidal. The ramp dropped. Heat and dust rolled in. Connor's weapon felt heavy in his hands despite the alien technology making it lighter than it should be. Kara was first out, moving fast despite her injuries. The others followed in tactical formation. The mine entrance yawned ahead. Darkness absolute. They entered without hesitation. The tunnels went deep. Ancient support beams groaned under weight they were never designed to hold. Claw marks scored the walls. The air reeked of something organic and wrong. Kara held up a fist. Everyone stopped. Ahead, movement in the darkness. Hunters, but different. Smaller. Faster. Scouts. Vex made a hand signal. Silent takedown. They moved as one unit. Blades flashed. The scouts died before they could alert the nest. But the clock was ticking. More would come. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Connor's breath caught. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Hunters in various stages of development, suspended in organic pods that lined the walls. At the chamber's center, something massive pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The queen, she was 20 feet tall, ancient beyond measure, surrounded by warrior-class hunters that dwarfed the ones Connor had fought. "Thermal charges," Vex ordered. "Plant them fast." They split up. Connor ran with Kara, placing explosives at structural weak points. His hands shook. Every second felt like an eternity. The queen hadn't noticed them yet, focused on her grotesque birthing process. Then a pod burst open near Maya. The hunter inside was premature, malformed, but alive. It shrieked. Every eye in the chamber turned toward them. "Charges set!" Vex shouted. "Move!" They ran. Behind them the queen roared. Hunters poured from alcoves, from ceiling vents, from everywhere. The tunnel became a killing corridor. Connor fired without aiming. The alien weapon carved through hunters with each trigger pull. Beside him, Kara moved like poetry written in violence. Her blades found vital points with mechanical precision. Thorn went down. A hunter landed on him from above, mandibles closing. Kaz turned back, firing, but it was too late. "Keep moving," Vex ordered. They left Thorn behind. Had to. The mission mattered more than any individual. The tunnel exit appeared ahead. Sunlight. Safety. Connor's legs burned. His lungs screamed. Almost there. A hunter dropped in front of Kara. Massive. Fresh. It hit her before she could dodge. Her injured shoulder gave out. She went down hard. Connor didn't think. He charged, drove his shoulder into the hunter's flank. It barely moved. Mandibles snapped toward his face. Kara's blade punched up through its throat. She'd never stopped fighting. Even on the ground, Connor pulled her up. They ran together, last ones out. Behind them, the charges detonated. The shock wave threw them forward. Connor hit sand rolling, ears ringing, vision blurred. He looked back. The mine entrance collapsed. Fire and smoke billowed out. Secondary explosions rippled as thermal charges cooked off deeper in the nest. Kara stood, weapon ready, watching. Nothing emerged from the flames. "Nest destroyed," Vex reported into his comm. "Queen confirmed eliminated. We lost Thorn." Around the world, similar reports came in. 43 nests attacked simultaneously. 39 destroyed. 4 required orbital strikes. Civilian casualties minimal. The Hunters' invasion was broken, but not ended. "They'll send more," Kara said quietly. "They always do." Connor looked at the sky, at ships holding position in orbit, at Earth, scarred but surviving. "Then we'll be ready." Extraction pods descended. One landed near their position, but before boarding, Kara turned to Connor. "You could stay here. Go home. You've done enough." Connor thought about his apartment in Seattle, his guide business, his normal life waiting. Then he thought about the red dots on the display, about 17 dead civilizations, about what happened when good people did nothing. "Someone has to fight," he said, echoing her words from the tower, "because surrender means extinction, because the alternative is unacceptable." Kara's expression shifted. Pride, maybe, recognition. "Then welcome to the war, Connor Briggs." They boarded the pod together. As it lifted skyward, Connor watched Earth shrink below. Somewhere down there, governments were coordinating, militaries mobilizing, humanity learning it wasn't alone in the universe, and that the universe was more dangerous than anyone imagined. But they'd survived first contact, won the opening battle, bought time to prepare. The pod docked with Kara's ship. Warriors greeted them, celebration muted by Thorn's loss. Vex clasped Connor's shoulder. "The Council wants to meet you. Unprecedented for a human to join our ranks." "I'm not joining anything," Connor said. "I'm going home eventually." Eventually, Kara agreed, but not today. Today, we hunt what's left. Tomorrow, we train your people. Next week, we prepare for the next wave. She was right. This wasn't ending. It was beginning. Connor looked at his hands, at the alien weapon he still carried, at the warriors around him who'd accepted him as one of their own. He'd gone hiking to clear his head, found a wounded alien on a mountain path, discovered humanity wasn't ready for what waited in the dark between stars. But they would be. He'd make sure of it. "All right," Connor said. "Where do we start?" Kara smiled. It was the first time he'd seen her smile. It made her look younger, hopeful. We start by surviving. Everything else follows. The ship turned toward orbit, toward the fleet, toward the ongoing fight to protect a planet that didn't yet understand how close it had come to extinction. Connor took his position beside Kara at the command displays. Student and teacher, human and alien, warriors both. The red dots on Earth's surface were fading, but new ones appeared beyond the moon. More hunter ships, smaller, retreating. They'd be back with more numbers, better tactics, renewed hunger. Let them come. Humanity had allies now, had warning, had a chance, and Connor had found something on that mountain path worth fighting for, worth bleeding for, worth standing against the darkness for. Not just Earth, not just humanity, but the simple truth that some things were worth defending, no matter the cost. The ship accelerated toward the retreating hunters. The hunt continued.